Hello and welcome to Perspectives. Thank you for joining us tonight once again. As I have committed for the past few weeks, Thursdays belong to my dear friend Saad Amanullah Khan, who has been introducing me to fantastic projects, amazing projects that are making a difference in Pakistan, projects that are making a difference in people's lives. And the more I hear about the projects that he's supporting, my respect for him increases every time. I am personally not into oh God, I don't know how to say it. I'm not much into public service. I am more into prevention. There was a time in the early days of my media career that I used to paint walls, I used to do these cleaning things and the typical media feel-good activities. And one of the events where all the people, actors and actresses and stars and singers were cleaning, repainting a road in Karachi, they asked, "Why aren't you doing it?" And I said, I'm not a fool. Why would I do it? And they're like, "What?" I said, "It's not my job to clean the wall. My job is not to let the wall get dirty." And they looked at me strange. But you have to do it. I said, "Well, that's fine. You do it. You feel good about it. I don't feel good about it. I have no interest in cleaning the wall, but I have an interest in making sure nobody makes it dirty. This is my wall. If somebody makes it dirty, they will have an absolute situation with me." Prevention. That is where the cure lies. And I'm not just... A lot of people say, how do I link all these stories and where did they happen? If you look at life closely, these things are all linked. And if you just keep your focus on it, you will find every story links to every other story in this world. So my personal story of not wanting to do things is in a way my desire for prevention. And my guests tonight are all about prevention. I'm not at liberty of sharing their stories. I would let them decide what part of the story they want to share with you or not, because we all have personal stories, we all have personal experiences, and at times they're very difficult experiences. But those difficult experiences lead to opportunity to do great things. And I have these people who are doing great work. I'd like to introduce my guests. On my right, I have Mr. Muhammad Iqbal, who's chairman of Kashif Iqbal Thalassemia Center. Muhammad, sir, thank you very much for taking time up. It's a great pleasure to have you here. He has given me some reading material, as I've said many times. One of the greatest things about doing media is you get lovely books and reading material that people have produced. One is called Mujhe Zindagi Chahiye, I Want Life, and the other is Shadi Khushiyon Bhara Muqaddas Rishta Bachche Aapke Gulshan Ke Muskurate Phool. Basically, marriage is a relationship of happiness, and it's talking about thalassemia, how parents who have thalassemia can pass on a very painful disease to the children. We'll talk about that more in a moment. On my left, of course, the man behind the series of shows, which is every Thursday, Saad Amanullah Khan. Thank you very much. He's also the CEO of Gillette Pakistan, which I guess we've all completely forgotten about right now. With him, on my left, is Dr. Muniba Agbatwala, who is working with a project called Health Oriented Preventive Education, HOPE. Dr. Sabah, thank you very much for taking time out and being here. In a moment, from London on Skype, we will be connecting to Mr. Kubair Shirazi, who has a project called Mochi Project. We'll get him on Skype in a moment. In the meantime, I think we have him on the phone. Kubair, can you hear me?
I certainly can.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us, Kubair. Lovely. Saad, I'd like to start with you. Would you like to tell us a bit about these projects and what's your interest in these projects, Hamas?
Okay. I think I've said quite a few things in my last two programs, but one thing which a lot of people come to me after those programs saying, how come you're involved in so many things? Something happened, early on when I came back to Pakistan in '94, and I used to help out a lot of people.
Sure.
But those were like my family, my servants, and that was it.
The small circle of influence.
My basic sort of,
Sure.
I wanted to have a multiplier effect. I wanted to help hundreds and thousands of people. And that's where, I started approaching different NGOs. And I think Aga Khan Hospital was the first one where I learned the tricks of fundraising and doing. And then Dr. Mubina is a person I met at a dinner. And I was amazed that she's running 200 schools and hospitals in Sindh. And when I asked her, how do you raise money? She says, well, word of mouth. I said, you don't have a fundraising committee? She says, no, I don't. So I created a Helper of Hope, We are about 8 to 9 people, and we have done events for the last maybe 6, 7 years, and we try to raise about 2 to 3 million rupees a year. I'm sure she needs a lot more than that. We don't plug it. She has got her own sources, but it creates a sense of ownership, and we partner. She uses me as an advisor on many things. Iqbal Sahab, I met actually through Jinnah Hospital. I'm working in Jinnah Hospital, and one of our big projects, the blood bank. We give about 250 liters of blood every day. I mean, it is amazing, and it's all cleaned up, and it's all purified, and that's something this Pakistan Aid Foundation does. And one of the recipients was Kashif Thalassemia, and one day we were talking, and I said I would like to go and visit, and I went to meet him. I was amazed that a single person, because of a personal tragedy in his family, has created an infrastructure, and just through sheer passion. And I'm sure he'll tell you more about it. The last one was Kubair, and again, this is what word of mouth does. I mean, people know that I like to help people.
Sure.
So this girl called Nadia Naviwala, who does USIP, Institute of Peace in Islamabad, met her, and she said, okay, I think you should go and meet Saad in Karachi. So she comes to Karachi, and he tells me about this Mochi project, which I think I would leave it to him. He is trying to create proper livelihood for cobblers in Pakistan.
Mochi being cobbler.
And what he has done is he's found out that a lot of people from Waziristan and Haripur go all over Pakistan, and one of the key professions is mochi, which is a cobbler.
Yeah.
And because of the fact that they can't make enough money, they just leave that profession, go back to that place, and probably end up with extremist groups and everything. So he has created a mini MBA program which he is teaching, and he's
a mini MBA program for cobblers.
For cobblers, for example, a cobbler who makes about 100 rupees a day, he should be able to make 400 rupees a day. And that would change the entire paradigm of him wanting to be, more passionate about his job and probably remain in that profession for a very long time. And he has done some tests, and he'll share you some results. And so these are all variety of activities that's going on, and they're all amazing in their own way.
I would love to hear Kubair's opinion on why cobblers, why zero in on that. But in a moment, Mohammad Iqbal Sahab, please tell us. I'm going to share. You lost your son in thalassemia. And that triggered you to doing this. Please tell us more.
उर्दू में मैं थोड़ा सा वजाहत कर दूंगा इसकी.
I will translate for you, please.
काशिफ मेरा बेटा था, 80 में पैदा हुआ था.
Right.
पैदा होने के 3 महीने बाद ब्लड की कमी का सामना करना पड़ा.
So 3 months after your child is born, you realize he needs blood, right?
Yeah. 3 महीने बाद उसको डॉक्टर को दिखाया, तो उसका हीमोग्लोबिन बॉडी में कम था. यानी कि नॉर्मल 12, 11, 12, 13 होना चाहिए.
Low hemoglobin, all right.
3 पे था. 3 का मतलब उसको ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूजन मस्ट. ब्लड ट्रांसफ्यूजन करा दिया. 1-2 महीने में इसको फिर खून खत्म हो गया, फिर खून लगाया.
So every 2 months you transfusing his blood.
बिल्कुल.
All right.
तो इस तरह से कंटिन्यू जब उसको 5-6 मरतबा ब्लड लगा, तो एक परेशानी हुई कि इसको क्या मर्ज है. ये 1980 की बात हो रही है.
Okay. 1980 when there's not much thalassemia awareness.
हाँ, कुछ भी नहीं.
So you're just transfusing blood. You have no idea why you're doing it.
बिल्कुल.
All right.
बिल्कुल. 96 में जब फिर एक मशहूर डॉक्टर साहब को दिखाया, बड़े उन्होंने कहा कि हम दोनों मियाँ बीवी का टेस्ट कराया. बोला यू थैलेसीमिया माइनर, योर वाइफ इज थैलेसीमिया माइनर, बोथ थैलेसीमिया माइनर. शादी के बाद आपका बच्चा जो हुआ ये थैलेसीमिया मेजर का है. जब तक आप जिंदा हो, माँ बाप, जब तक बच्चा जिंदा है, इसको जिंदगी भर खून चढ़ेगा. और
so both the parents are thalassemia minor.
Yeah.
So your child is thalassemia major, and as long as you're alive and when the child's alive, he will need blood transfusion.
Yeah.
If I may ask you a personal question, are you married to your cousin?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you've written, I'm sorry I'm asking a personal question, but you've written in great detail in your literature, so I'm taking the liberty. So now so what are you doing now?
हमने ये जो दुनिया अगर देख रही है, आप ये समझें कि ये एक दुनिया का बड़ी खौफनाक तरीन इस मरहले से माँ बाप को, बच्चे को गुजरना पड़ता है. आया कि कैंसर और एड्स से भी ज्यादा खतरनाक मरहले से गुजरना होता है.
So it's more painful than cancer or AIDS. But why is thalassemia more painful than cancer?
सर आप देखें कि थैलेसीमिया मेजर वाले को तो हम मौत का इंतजार करते हैं कि कब तक उसको ब्लड लगेगा और कब इसकी डेथ होगी. 5 साल, 10 साल, 20 साल, 25 साल.
So you're saying you actually wait for your child to die?
हाँ. और कैंसर और एड्स का तो 1-1.5-2 साल में फैसला हो जाता है.
But this takes forever. This cancer, AIDS is quick. This is not quick.
जो सिसक के मर रहा होता है ना, बच्चा और वालिदैन दोनों मार भी नहीं सकते, अब गला भी नहीं घोट सकते.
I wish you could say this in English because I'm having trouble. No, I'm having trouble repeating it. I can translate, but I'm having trouble repeating. What it's saying is that you wish you could strangle your child and save him the misery, but you can't do that, and you just have to keep seeing him suffer, see your child suffer.
और इस बच्चों के साथ एक मसला भी यही है, जैसे काशिफ को ब्लड लगते लगते हर उसको महीने में 3 बोतल ब्लड लगता था, 3-4 काशिफ 15-14 साल का हो गया, ब्लड लगते लगते 14 साल का हो गया, स्कूल जाता था नॉर्मल बच्चों की तरह। फिर एक दफा इसकी बहुत हालत खराब हो गई बेइंतहा, तो अस्पताल में दाखिल था, सांस लेता था, ना आता थी ना सांस ना जाती थी। तो मैं एक मस्जिद पे दुआ कर रहा था, फुटपाथ पे बनी होती, और रो रहा था, शायद चीख चीख के दुआ कर रहा था कि या अल्लाह, एक दुआ हम कभी मजबूरी में कभी करते हैं माँ बाप के लिए, माँ बाप औलाद के लिए, जब बिल्कुल कि या अल्लाह इसके लिए बेहतर फैसला कर दे। तो मैं उसको दुआ कर रहा था, तो जब दुआ करके अंदर आया तो डॉक्टर बुशरा खड़ी थी, उससे कहती कि आप इतनी जोर जोर से रो रहे थे, चीख रहे थे मस्जिद के अंदर कि लोग फुटपाथ पे चलने वाले।
So you were in a mosque praying, basically screaming loud in pain, and so the doctor standing out asked you why you were doing that. Okay, but why were you screaming? Why were you in so much pain? What were you praying for?
उसकी बहुत सारी जगह वजह, एक तो वो तकलीफ से तो सारा टाइम गुजारा है उसने, 14 साल तो वैसे ही गुजारे, 14 ईयर्स का हो गया था वो, और फिर जिस तकलीफ में था वो, उसमें यह था कि मैंने फिर डॉक्टर से कहा कि इसके डॉक्टर साहब, हमारे कुरान में हदीस में जगह है कि कहीं ना कहीं हर बीमारी का इलाज है, इसका दुनिया में कहीं इलाज होगा? फिर डॉक्टर मुझसे कहती है हाँ इसका एक ट्रीटमेंट है, ओनली वन ट्रीटमेंट इज बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट, एंड बोन मैरो ट्रांसप्लांट इज वेरी कॉस्टली। तो इतना अरसा से मुझे किसी ने क्यों नहीं बताया कि इतना महंगा ट्रीटमेंट।
So all these years nobody told you that it's bone marrow transplant. Right? Why didn't they tell you? Because they didn't know. Why did they not tell you? They did not know. The doctors did not know that there is a transplant.
नहीं, ट्रांसप्लांट पाकिस्तान में भी नहीं था, किसी ने बताया भी नहीं मुझे, किसी ने, मगर उस डॉक्टर ने मुझे बताया कि इटली एंड इंग्लैंड, लंदन में ट्रांसप्लांट होगा, मगर वेरी कॉस्टली। अल्लाह ने दुआ सुनी, काशिफ को नई लाइफ मिल गई। कोशिश की, पता चला कि 90 लाख रुपया 94 में इसका खर्चा।
1994 it was 9 million rupees.
9 million अबाव, तो वो ट्रांसप्लांट पे खर्चा होगा, तब देखिए। खैर अल्लाह ने दुआ सुन भी ली, और मैं 1.5 साल, एक मैंने बुक लिखी है मुझे जिंदगी चाहिए, उसका पढ़ेंगे तो उसमें डिटेल है। मैंने उसमें जब मैं इसको 1.5 साल कोशिश की और उसको मैं ले भी गया, बल्कि मोइन अख्तर ने बड़ा इसमें कॉपरेट किया था, मरूम ने बहुत ज्यादा, तो उसको मैं काशिफ को इटली ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए लेकर गया।
And eventually, at what age did your son die?
उस टाइम 16 years.
I'm going to ask you I mean, this is one of those shows where I blame anchors for asking stupid questions. So I'm going to ask a very bad question. You said you wish that your child would die. Were you pleased that your child passed away, or were you sad? It's a very rude question, and I'm sorry for asking this question, but there's a reason I'm asking this question.
देखिए, हमें कहीं बहुत सारे कड़वे घूंट पीने पड़ते हैं, जो औलाद सामने होती है ना, चाहे वो बिल्कुल ही माजूर ही क्यों ना हो।
You want to keep your child alive even if the child is crippled, fine. But लेकिन आपका जब बच्चा था, आप
मेरा बच्चा एक ही बेटा था ना मेरे, मगर एक हो या 10 औलाद है। काशिफ को इटली में ट्रांसप्लांट के लिए डॉक्टरों ने मना कर दिया, ट्रांसप्लांट नहीं करेंगे। वजह आयरन बढ़ गया बॉडी में, और बड़ा खौफनाक मसला था। आपके मेरे बॉडी में आयरन की मिकदार 40 to 160 नैनोग्राम ओनली।
So there was no way of saving your child, and it was absolute misery. Again, I feel horrible for asking this, but the reason I'm trying to invoke this discussion is that we are quick, hasty in our decisions to have children, get married, in where we need. Our friend has written a whole book that please get your blood tests. Please be careful who you marry. You could be, but the misery that you actually create for the very children that we love so much, we need to do better. Please comment and also tell us about your project, because you're also into preventive. You feel education, prevention. Please talk about it.
Talking about Iqbal Saab and Kashif. In the 90s, there wasn't much that could be done.
Sure.
And as Iqbal Saab said, that iron in his body had increased. However, now over a period of time, things have changed. And this condition is known as hemosiderosis. where the iron gets deposited in different organs of the body. However, now a special pump is provided, which is implanted under the skin, and it takes away the iron. Right? And however, in spite of all these measures, unless and until the child undergoes bone marrow transplantation, he still suffers misery. And they are very typical cases with children with thalassemia. The best thing is premarital counseling. That is
Prevention.
if I'm not mistaken, it is in Iran where it is essential that before marriage, both the husband and the wife to be are tested for thalassemia.
Which is an Islamic country.
7 years.
It is an Islamic country, and basically this is not religion or not.
Well, in our case, we invoke that discussion because the non-Islamic world has these laws.
So in Iran they have this law, and I think in another country they have this law. So
Iran, Saudi Arabia, all Muslim and European countries,
irrespective of
I
religion,
think sensible developed countries
yes,
are putting this through, because you need to eradicate this disease. You need to finish it. For example, हमने smallpox को खत्म कर दिया दुनिया से. We need to do the same thing for thalassemia. And the only
बढ़ता इसलिए जा रहा है ना, क्योंकि marriages जो है.
That's what I'm saying.
And be in English, so our audience.
We need to speak in English.
Please don't.
Right. Sorry.
No, but the point I was trying to make is we have to eradicate it, and the only way you eradicate it is you stop having thalassemia minor, two of minor marrying together.
We don't pair them.
And right now what I hear from both the doctors is that this disease is continuing to grow. In fact, not even stagnate, but it's continuing to grow. Anyway, I'll pass it back to you to continue with your hope.
And tell us about hope as well.
Well, I mean, to conclude the thalassemia discussion is that obviously one has to take preventive measures. Treatment comes, of course, much later on, and the treatment is very expensive and very painful also. And bone marrow transplantation is not everybody's cup of cake, right?
कामयाबी नहीं.
Yes.
कामयाबी नहीं.
And yeah, it's not successful, right? Okay.
And that's why prevention is the best cure,
Absolutely.
as they say. So, coming to hope also started as a preventive measure, because I'm a pediatrician myself. So I also see a lot of children with thalassemia also. However, that's another story. But I am a pediatrician, so I used to see a lot of cases of diarrhea, respiratory infections, communicable diseases, infectious diseases, diseases prevented by immunization. And all these, say about 60 to 70, 80% of diseases in children are preventable.
Right.
So, we started HOPE as a preventive education society, and say 20% of our services are curative.
Right.
The rest of it is basically trying to talk to people about hygiene, trying to talk to people about immunization, trying to talk to people about other such measures which would prevent the infections. So that is how we started HOPE.
And these are preventions that are not necessarily money costing, not expensive.
No,
they just need more awareness.
It just creates awareness. It
just need awareness for it.
And
habit change.
A habit change. And basically, to have awareness, you should have an education level.
Sure.
And that is what we realized over a period of time, that after 2 years we were completely into health. But now we branched out into education also, because we realized that there was no point in talking to mothers, because the mothers wouldn't understand and the children wouldn't understand unless and until they had a level of education in them.
Fair point.
So that was the reason why we branched from HOPE from health into education. And now education and health are both 50% of our services. Basically, HOPE is...
you have hospitals and you have schools.
Yeah, we have a nationwide presence. We work in basically Karachi, Balochistan, Thatta, interior and Dadu, Shahadadpur, etc. We have services in Punjab, Kashmir and KPK. So we have about 5 hospitals, 2 basic health units. Besides that, we have 200 informal home schools. We have 4 formal schools. We have about 10,500 children studying in our schools.
MashaAllah.
And in addition to that, another thing is that when we started working on education and health, the community, that is the people, wanted something else. They wanted economic empowerment.
Sure.
Poverty alleviation. So to give them some sort of skills, we have computer centers, sewing cutting centers, which gives them skills. So basically our motto is to change the society as a whole, rather than change just one aspect.
I need to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Kuber, who's in London with us, and hear what he's doing about the Mochi project. But also, we'd like to find out what sort of financial requirements are there. Because somebody questioned me earlier this afternoon, why am I doing shows with NGOs? Well, these aren't NGOs. And even if they are, there's nothing wrong with that. The good NGOs, the bad NGOs. But these are people who are working individually and raising capital through donations, word of mouth, just personal contacts, and doing fantastic work. So we also need to evaluate how we can become a part of these great ventures. Let's take a short break. We'll come back and talk to Kuber. Thanks for staying with us, watching Perspectives. We're talking about great projects here. Kuber Shirazi, who's running a Mochi project, Mochi being cobbler. Kuber, tell us about your project, what triggered you to do it, and what are you hoping to achieve with this?
So, Kashif, thank you very much for having me on the show. The Mochi project is part of, it's a flagship project. Our aim is basically to work with what we call entrepreneurs of circumstance. So, being an entrepreneur myself, I'm an entrepreneur of choice, whereas there are many people out there, not just in Pakistan, but across the world, who have no other choice but to go out and make a living, the best way they know how. And as you could say, as responsible entrepreneurs and as individuals who want to give something back, we studied, we did a survey and we studied who are the entrepreneurs of circumstance that need our help or could use our help the most. And we picked up Mochis for a variety of reasons. One of them was in our survey, we found out that most of the IDPs who leave the conflict zones, they end up in the street cobbler or the Mochi trade. There are a number of reasons for that. Primarily, the cost barrier or the capital barrier to become a Mochi is very low. It takes about 750 rupees to set up shop, which is the proverbial shop because these guys don't actually set up shop, as we all know. The skill barrier is very low as well. We can all thread a needle and we can all stitch. And usually when these IDPs arrive into urban centers, they have to start making their keep as soon as possible because they usually take refuge with the relations and occasionally some of them actually know someone who is a street cobbler because they've been through the same journey, right? And they end up becoming street cobblers. And our project is, for me personally, one of my life-changing experiences commercially was doing a mini MBA at Cranfield, and that is the same path that we've taken across to these entrepreneurs of circumstance by designing a mini MBA that is very tailored to their environment, to their skill set, to their requirements. And we take them through a 5-day program. It's 2 hours every evening. We pay them to attend. Then we provide them with one-on-one coaching for a period of 3 to 4 months. So every week we go and spend about an hour or two with each Mochi. And we mentor them. And the results we've had are just absolutely fascinating. And what our motivation is, it's to address, your whole theme of prevention, it resonates very strongly with us. And it's about addressing not just poverty, but the lack of opportunities, the lack of justice, more importantly, the lack of access to justice in Pakistan. Lack of dignity of labor. Unfortunately, most people who go to Mochis, they treat them very poorly. And hence they have very little self-respect for themselves. And a lack of labor rights. So it's a case of lack of human rights. It's a rise in apathy and cynicism within the society. it has deep connections with the failure of the state to provide adequate safety nets against poverty, insecurity, exploitation, and abuse of human rights. So, in a nutshell, that's us.
Okay. Interesting. What Kuber said, Saad, I want to talk to you about that. Lack of dignity in labor and cynicism. We would wash people's bathrooms if we go to the industrialized world, but we wouldn't wash a plate in front of a mother over here. That needs to change. And if anyone who does something for the society is seen like, oh, you're a fraud. So that cynicism, which Kuber mentioned, and that whole ideology, how will that change?
That's a very, very deep question. In fact, the problem is when you name NGOs, everybody thinks, this is a good way of making money.
Yeah.
And some people say, okay, you name the social enterprises, don't talk about NGOs. But I tell you, most of the NGOs that I work with, their overall cost is probably less than 3, 4, 5% of the total funding that they're getting. They're trying to manage that. But coming back to your question, I think the whole society, okay, how do I position it? I think this feeling of empathy, this feeling of caring is part of a society that you grow up in. And I think the values that you get is the values you get from your home.
Sure.
Okay? And I think ab hamari society is losing a lot of values which used to be there. When I was a kid, it was a different thing, and now...
Yeah, but Saad, I'm sorry. It was always tough to work. If you didn't have a kind of a job...
I think status here and status symbol and, trying... You're right. I mean, you put your finger on the point.
I mean, we'd starve, we'd go hungry, we'd be jobless, but we wouldn't do a job which is below a certain kind of job.
I will tell you my own example. I mean, I try to get together people to help these NGOs. In my corporate sector, I think I can barely get anybody to find time to help them. Whereas, I mean, they have...
You are a CEO of a large company with reasonable influence.
Yeah. I know these people. Yeah. And I tell them, what great work these people are doing. Money they're willing to give. But what these people need is time. And the time, I think, is what you're talking about. That will only come from passion and commitment and dedication.
I think Kuber wants to add something. Kuber, I can see you smile. Go ahead. Kuber, I can...
The reason I'm smiling is we have lost a lot of values, and the culture in Pakistan has changed. As the diaspora, we've held on to those values because as diaspora, we always bring with us a microculture of where we come from, and then we hold on to it very dearly. So it's one of those things that resonates strongly when you go back and you see a lack of values, you see a lack of respect, general respect in society, regardless of what the employment is.
So that does, you agree that does lack?
Oh yes, absolutely, and it's all going south, unfortunately.
All right, Iqbal sir, briefly, I see you have a little brochure here which says the cost of bone marrow transplant is rupees 2 million and not successful, not guaranteed to be successful.
2 million to 60 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
And minimum monthly treatment cost is about 10,000 rupees. Infusion pump with 1 week injection, 5,000 rupees. And so you've given costs. What sort of money? How are you raising your money? And what kind of money do you need?
हम तो जमा भी नहीं करते हैं और देते ही देते हैं.
But where does the money come from?
इसमें कुछ अमान साहब जैसे लोग दूसरे बहुत सारे अल्लाह के ऐसे बंदे आते हैं और हमारा तो खर्चा मिलियन के साथ.
So it's personal donations.
Personal donation, not government support and not any country supports.
So you raise through personal donations?
नहीं, हम raise नहीं.
Word of mouth.
Word of mouth.
Yeah, basically.
And it's just dispersed.
And I think if you go and visit his thalassemia center, you see the commitment and cleanliness and how he does it, and I think you just get touched. I mean, my sister, for example, has been supporting Fatimids for a very long time. When I told her about Kashif, she started sending money to Kashif. So I think, and I think that's what he has.
What sort of money are they looking for, Sam?
How much is the total budget? I don't know.
एक सेंटर का
overall cost
30 मेरे ख्याल में 4 से 5 करोड़ का बजट है.
Monthly.
नहीं,
yearly. All right.
4 से 5 करोड़ का मतलब 2 से 3 लाख रुपया पर डे.
Per day.
हमें तो गवर्नमेंट केएफसी तक छूट नहीं दे रही कि आप इतना फ्री का काम कर रहे हो कि 1.5 लाख बिजली का बिल, 1 लाख बिजली का बिल, बच्चों को एसी के बगैर तो ब्लड ट्रांसमिशन नहीं हो सकता. 30 to 40 children.
Well, I'd request KFC to give them free electricity at least. Maybe we should have gotten one of them.
इतना बड़ा.
We should do the same. We've applied to KFC since 6 months. And
नहीं दुख होता है, दुख होता है. आप देखें 360 patient only thalassemia major in England. 360 patient. In Pakistan 1 लाख से ज्यादा. 10 million above.
No, you said your brochure said 1 crore से ज़्यादा.
Sir, वो एक minor.
Oh,
thalassemia is minor.
Thalassemia
Major.
carriers are over 10 million,
Yeah.
and actual major
Major is
100,000.
10 million. आप समझेंगे उसको.
1 million.
1 million.
One.
अब ये इसको रोकने वाला कोई नहीं. वहाँ यूरोप में 14-15 साल से एक बच्चा नहीं हुआ थैलेसीमिया मेजर.
So 15 years they have right,
5-6 हजार बच्चे पर ईयर पैदा हो रहे हैं
5,000-6,000 new thalassemia carriers every year because we just not preventing.
oh, that's I think that's true. That I guess if you prevent, then you wouldn't have this 0.1
Massive
million also.
burden of curing
Exactly.
and the pain and misery that goes with it.
Exactly, and the pain that the parents have to bear, the child has to bear, and
It's just
the
suffering,
resources
right?
that are going into it. So,
I know, thank you for saying that. That's a harsh thing people say, oh, but you're putting in resource and effort into it. What sort of financial requirements do you have? How are you raising your money? And do you need support from people?
of course, we need support.
So what are the numbers?
Well, our numbers are also around, we should say, around 3 crores per year, per annum.
Mm-hmm.
And again, our source of funding is again philanthropists, local people who give donations, some overseas Pakistanis in USA, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And through the Helpers of Hope Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Saad Amanullah has been very kind enough, so we got through many CSR activities of many multinational companies also.
Okay. So that money's coming. But
we are just neck to neck with our expenses.
It's not sustainable. It's just like we have to work very hard to make these people running.
And you are scalable. You can increase your footprint if you have the money.
Yes, definitely we are scalable. You see, the problem is many people are willing to set up a building. That this is the school. We'll build the school. We'll construct the school. We'll give you the money for that. But then you run it. So now we have 3 or 4 centers which have been constructed by different philanthropists and organizations. But now we are running them. So the running expenditure, the hospitals take most of the money, medicines, investigations, schooling, books, teachers, human resources. Our administrative costs are minimal, say about 3 to 4% of our total budget. But we need the human resources, and medicines are very expensive, and investigations are very expensive. Books are very expensive, computers are very expensive.
Absolutely.
And so
if somebody wants to adopt a school, what's the cost? You have informal and formal schools.
We have informal and formal. I mean, an informal school is a minimum of 35,000 rupees per annum.
Per year?
Per year. Per annum.
35,000 rupees?
Yeah, 35,000 rupees, in which there are 30 to 35 children. So basically you end up with 1,000 rupees per child per year, which is nothing. Which is actually nothing.
Well, here's a great opportunity for somebody who wants to invest. And I'm saying that I won't repeat
and the quality of education is so good. Like, we are based in Karachi, we're a school in Muzaffargarh. The children in our school in Muzaffargarh, they got the first, second, and third position in the whole D.C. Khanpur.
MashaAllah.
In AJK, we have schools on the top of the mountain, in the ravines, and everywhere, where people cannot reach.
I mean, just to summarize, 1 lakh rupees will run 3 informal schools.
Yeah, you can put it that way.
35,000 se multiply kare.
And to say you will teach 100 children with that.
Yeah. No, what I'm saying is, 1,000 rupees a child a year, for God's sake.
Which is so basic. Yeah.
No, for God's sake. Come on. You want to let this one go?
And come and visit us.
But you will be surprised. People still say, oh my God, 35,000 rupees. I mean, they end up spending 3,000 rupees or 4,000 rupees in an evening, in a dinner.
In fact, Faisal, we have some people who I got together.
Sorry, my apologies. Let me talk to Kubair, and I'll come to you. Kubair, tell us about your funding needs. How are you raising the money? What sort of finances are you looking for? How can people become part of your project?
We're raising funding the good old-fashioned way, just as Mubina and Iqbal Saba, where we're approaching friends, family. In my case, I'm approaching clients as well who are kind enough to understand and have the empathy of helping out with the real world. Our funding needs are dictated by how many mochis or how many entrepreneurs of circumstance are we going to take on and carry out a mini MBA program with. It costs us roughly about $82 to engage with a street cobbler over a period of 4 months, which includes their training, includes the cost of their coaching, etc., etc. We also give them our equipment like stools, banners, help them with advertising, improve the environment that they work in for their customers. And this year we're looking to engage with 200 mochis. So we're looking at roughly about $16,400. Our immediate need is Haripur, where we've been itching to go into Haripur district and engage with 50 mochis over there, and unfortunately it's being pushed further and further forward because we haven't managed to raise those funds as yet. But for Haripur, we're not looking at a huge amount. We're just looking at $4,500, which in the grand scheme of things isn't much if you consider that once a mochi goes through our process, they have a 50% increase in revenue. They have a 92% increase in profitability. I mean, this is game-changing stuff. We recently, as recently as yesterday, put up a case study of a gentleman called Qasim Khan. He's got 8 dependents, and he's grown his revenue, he's grown his profitability by 226%. There's a video of him being interviewed on the impact the MBA has had on his life, and we don't need to sell his story. We don't need to convince anyone. It's out there. I mean, just imagine the guy's gone from making $4.
But Kuber, if I may add, so you said $82 to set up one cobbler, right?
Yeah.
So in $82, you could prevent a man from becoming a terrorist.
And $82, you can change his worldview, you can change his circumstances. But most people who go towards terrorism, they don't just do it because of poverty. They do it because there's a lack of access to justice in Pakistan.
Sure.
There's a lack of labor rights. There are a whole bunch of things. But by addressing the need, the poverty element, you're empowering that individual. Because look, the government of Pakistan does not provide any kind of safety net. Okay, so I don't know if it's politically correct to say that or not, but it's a fact. Right.
But economic empowerment is the first step to everything else, really. Saad, how would you...
It's the first step.
Right. Saad, how would you add before we end this?
I mean, all I would like to say is, I'm bringing these NGOs just to tell what are the variety of work that's being doing. I mean, everything from, I think when I met Kuber, I've never thought of this part, but...
I think Kuber, we got cut off. Is Kuber, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'm sorry, you were saying something, we lost you there for a moment. Please go on.
I said once we enable someone to make 200% more profit than he did previously, that gives us a level of trust with that individual where we can engage them with a much wider dialogue.
Right. Okay. Okay. Great. Please.
Yeah, I think just to summarize, I think these are touching people at different places. I think the bigger point I want to make is I think you talked about it, whether it's scalable,
right?
Things like that. Yeah. I think there are amazing models which the government can pick up. For example, TCF could be another model. Just creating a vocational center for mochis. Sure. I mean, what he's doing is creating a little MBA program which is really a vocational center. And suddenly this boy Qasim he's talking about is making $200. He used to make $4. And now $220 or $11 he's making. I mean, he's changing lives. I think we need to probably work with the government, and hopefully, I think this new government that is in place seems to be listening and wants to make a difference, wants to create the economic growth, and cases needs to be taken seriously. I mean, issues have to be stopped today. I mean, if you look at any issue in Pakistan, deforestation, we have lost our foresters. Water, no dams are being built. India has built 4,250 dams. We have only built 100 dams. I mean, we need to get our act together. We need to start doing things.
Sure.
And I think we are here as NGOs giving you examples of things can be emulated and tested models. And I think that's what I'm saying. And plus, obviously, continue to make sure you support these NGOs so they don't stop. And I think Kuber definitely needs somebody to sponsor $4,000 so he can go to Haripur and get his...
the amounts are so
nothing.
And yet, if anybody has trouble raising them, that's a matter of fact. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out, being here tonight. I'd like to just say a few things before we go. Ramadan is upon us. We will be giving a lot of charity. We will be giving out a lot of money. Please do share as much as you can. We've introduced, I think, about 12 or 14 projects to you, which Mr. Saad Amanullah, who is the CEO of Gillette Pakistan, I'm saying that for a reason. He's a credible man. He's not a fraud. I know him personally. He's a reasonable man. A gentleman approves checks and supports a project. Go back and watch the videos for this show for the last 3 Thursdays. Choose one. Choose any. The amounts needed by them are so small, and it's a great opportunity for investment in our own futures. Even if we're not from Pakistan, it doesn't matter what country we belong to, doesn't matter where we're coming from, doesn't matter who we are. Our future is collective. Our future is the collective global future. We can't forget any country. We can't forget Nigeria and the Ghanas and the Sudans. We forgot some African countries. Today they've become pirates and they take away our ships and people. So let's not ignore anybody. Let's not just focus on our street, city, country. Let's focus on the collective humanity. Because if we are going to ignore any part of this world, in God's eyes, there are no countries and there are no borders. It's God's land, it's God's people. So we can work on our own people, on our own family, on our own neighbor, but frankly, we really need to work on the whole world, because as this world's becoming smaller and smaller, with technology, with access, with communication, with transport, everyone's deeds, everyone's life is affecting everybody else's. So please, let's work collectively. The governments will do whatever they do, and we can make the governments do whatever we want to do. But let's start with ourselves. Let's do these little things. Let's make small differences in small lives, which will become bigger lives as they grow up, as they evolve. And that will be the world of tomorrow. When we have retired and gotten old, we will be dependent on the world we are creating today. So let's create a world that when we are helpless and old, it's reasonably okay to live in. Let's hope it's not miserable. Until next time, good night.